Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today for our webinar, How to Audit Your Marketing Like a CEO. We had a good group of people register for today's session, and so I'm excited to jump into it. Just want to give a few housekeeping notes as we dive into what we're going to be talking about today. We do have a chat and comment feature here on this on the platform, so feel free to message any questions that you have, any comments. We'd love to be able to interact with you. I do have two great people assisting me today as moderators in our comment section. I've got Kim and Hazel from Virtual Vision, and they'll be helping to answer some questions. If you have questions, we will have some Q&A time today at the end, and they'll kind of be helping to monitor those to make sure that when we get to that point, we can make sure we've got the right questions in there for you. So feel free to use that. As we get settled and get started today, if you are joining, we'd love to just have you say, hey, in the comments, tell me where you're joining from, where in the country, first name, if you want to give your company, and then just the city that you're joining from. We would so appreciate it. And then I guess without further ado, we'll start diving into it. One of the questions I guess that I know we'll get right off the bat, and so I want to address that, is anyone who attends today, we are obviously recording this session, and we'll be giving out the recording as well as a free one-pager that we will talk a little bit about at the end, and that is our Smarter Marketing Checklist. This will be sent to you within 24 hours following our session today via email. So watch your email for that, and make sure that you can know that that is coming, just in case you have questions. And thanks to everyone who's so far just go ahead and commenting on, in the comments section, telling us where you're from, what company you're with. We're excited to have you here. Let's go ahead and dive in. So today, as I noted, we are going to be talking a little bit about how to audit your marketing like a CEO. Is it fitting that I am the CEO of the company and the one giving this talk? Absolutely, but that wasn't necessarily planned here. My name is Amanda, and I have been working in marketing for more than 15 years, and I'm very passionate about working with companies and walking alongside of them to help them understand what's working, what's not, how we can be strategic in our marketing. So even if I wasn't the CEO of my company, I think it's really important that we ask these questions and look at our marketing as such. Before we dive in today, for those of you who are not familiar, let me go ahead and introduce you to our company. So Virtual Vision Computing, we are a full service digital marketing partner for the home services and kind of restoration space. So we work a lot with contractors, plumbers, roofers, pest control, all of those details. And our goal is really to be a full service marketing partner that can come alongside of you, that you can trust. We have been in business since 1997. We've been focusing specifically on the restoration and home services space for the past 16 years. And we really span or run the gamut as far as the services that we offer, from website design and then tailoring plans for you that are customed based on the goals that you have, whether that's a paid marketing campaign, whether that's lead generation, search engine optimization, ROI reporting, and then personalized account management services. We just aim to be someone that you can trust. Everyone has been burned by a marketing company at one point or another. And so we want to make sure that you don't feel like that's the case with us. So that's a little bit about us. As we dive into today, I want to just invite you to kind of start with a foundation of what we are going to be talking about when we audit marketing from a CEO perspective. It's important to understand how a CEO's perspective is different than, say, someone that's on your team or actively working in that on the day to day. And so I want to start with that foundation of why is a CEO's perspective different? Why is it important to ask these questions? So, for starters, when a CEO looks at marketing, yes, likes, impressions, traffic, these things are important, but they're what I would call a vanity metric. They tell me a little bit of what's going on, but not necessarily what the actual ROI. What is this investment actually bringing back to me? CEOs care about outcomes. We want to know, did this generate qualified leads? Did those leads turn into jobs? And did it actually drive any revenue? So, the CEO perspective is understanding that we have to stop guessing where things are hitting. And instead, we want to know what we are tracking and what's actually happening. We stop guessing and we start tracking. And then finally, looking at marketing not just as an expense, but knowing that's an investment. I was just having a conversation with a potential customer this week talking about the idea of marketing as an investment. How sometimes we want to shut things down because we know it's going to cost us some money in the marketing perspective. But that investment might ultimately end up getting you something greater back. And so that's the perspective that we want to start with today, the lens that we will use. Because without an ROI, marketing is just an expense. And we want to make sure that it's a valuable investment. So let's go ahead and dive in. When we talk about ROI as it relates to marketing, there are 5 core drivers that we want to hit on today, and we're going to start by diving into. They are website, Google, paid avenues, reputation, and branding. And I like to think of each of these as like a pillar that supports your growth. If even one pillar on a structure is weak, that structure becomes unstable. And so these pillars, we're going to break them down kind of audit style so that you can see where your company is strong and where you might be losing money. These are the pillars that are holding up your marketing. Again, if even one is weak, the entire system could be underperforming as a result. So we're going to break them each down in some practical steps to understand what they are, as well as how we can actually audit those areas. So let's just start by looking at these 5 pillars here and understanding first what I'm referring to. So website. When we talk about a website, we have to understand that as a core driver of ROI, it is more than just a pretty face or a landing page that people come to. Google, we have to understand that as a core driver of ROI, Google starts with the understanding of visibility for free. Yes, there are paid avenues that we'll get to, but Google visibility, organics, is free. Paid avenues as your core driver. These are either for a business, the biggest driver or the biggest money pit for ROI. Reputation. We're going to talk about the fact that trust truly is the new currency as it relates to Google. And then branding. This is more than just your logo. We are talking about the influence of your brand on future conversions and making sure that you're building a solid foundation. Before I dive into this, I want to just offer again, as we've had some more people join, feel free to use the comments section. I've got a great team here today to help me moderate any comments. Let us know where you're joining from, your company, if you're willing. And feel free to queue up some questions that we can answer in our Q&A time. I believe you can make your comments public or private. So if you don't see people, it's possible that you're messaging private, but we'll make sure our team gets on those. All right, so let's go ahead and move into kind of our core driver number one of auditing your marketing like a CEO, these foundational items, and that is your website. If you have heard me speak before, you understand that I like to look at your website as like the employee that is never off the clock. Everything of your marketing is directing as a basis into your website. Every other channel feeds into it. And so you have to think as your website as kind of the hub of all of your marketing or kind of your digital storefront. More than a pretty face, if someone walks up and the door, proverbial door to your website is locked, the lights are off, they're going to leave. And that is why understanding the importance of a website, whether that's loading, usability, all these details, is incredibly important. In fact, WP Rocket did a study in 2024 that 47% of consumers, that's almost half of the marketplace, expect a website, especially on mobile, this is looking at mobile speeds, to load in 2 seconds or less. Which sounds crazy when you say it out loud, but I am victim of as well of looking at a website and going, come on, what is going on here? Why is this not loading? And on top of that, a 1 second improvement in speed in loading equals a 17% increase in conversions. 17% means something different for every single business. But for even some of our smaller businesses, 17% is a huge amount of percentage in conversion increase. So it's important to note. Additionally, Conductor 2 years ago, 2023, said a site that loads in 1 second converts 3 times better than a 5-second site. The reality is that if your site is just a pretty face, which ultimately most of the time means it takes a little bit longer to load, your viewers are going to bounce to your competitor. A strong user experience, loadability, usability reduces your bounce rates, meaning how much people are leaving your website, and it increases trust. And trust, as we'll continue to talk about, is the currency that matters here. So when we talk about auditing your website, what are some things we need to look at? And these are all free reports, free things that you can look at. Everyone should be able to get this information from their website. First and foremost, look at the structure of your website. Is it set up in a way that will allow people to have that website load well, to have it be clean so that you don't have a bunch of lag time? Is it ADA or American Disability Association compliant? This is one of the things that we always look at, and actually kind of shocks people sometimes to understand that their website isn't inherently disability compliant. Why does this matter? I used to tell people, you know what? I've never actually seen anybody get sued for liability on lack of compliance for ADA. However, a few months ago, I met with someone and they said, you know what? Actually, my friend is getting sued right now for that. So it does happen, and it is legally required that you are compliant. So you have to look at the structure. Is it secure? Is it ADA compliant? Does it load in 3 seconds or less, especially on mobile. And that's where we talk about speed. How quickly is your website loading using Google's core Web Vitals tool called Lighthouse? It's free for anyone who is using a Chrome browser. Using their tool to understand how things are ranking and how quickly things are loading. So you want to look at that and figure out how quickly are these things really happening. Is it less than a 3% load time? Going back to what we had before, is it less than a 2-second load time? That's very important. Again, 1 second improvement in speed equals a 17% increase in conversions. UX, this is a short way of saying user experience. Is your website easy to find? Can people easily find your phone number, your contact form, mobile friendly call to actions or CTAs? If someone's on a mobile device, which is where 80% of viewers are coming from now, can they scroll through your site? These are all things that more than just vanity metrics, you can pull up the phone and look at yourself. And then finally, most importantly than all of this, are you tracking what's happening on your website? More than number of visitors, more than, what looks good and load time, what's actually happening? What calls are coming from your website? What forms are being filled out? Has the chat been logged? Everything should be tied back to trackability. And this is where, if your website fails in some of these questions, in these pieces, your marketing dollars on other areas will be wasted, because this is the foundation. I tell people every time I talk through audits that when you look at especially the structure and compliant pieces of your website, it's like the foundation of a house. When it is not set up in the way that it should be, it's like having cracks in your foundation. For a period of time, that house can stand, but eventually, for long-term legacy success of that house, the foundation has to be fixed, and you have to look at your website with that mindset. All right, let's move on to core driver number 2, and this is where a lot of conversations tend to come up. Google really is one of the main front doors to your business. Almost half of all Google searches have a local intent. And that was a stat that Google produced in 2023. So I'm sure that has even continued to climb. Near me searches, so whether that's, X business near me, grew 200% in 2022. So this is, all of these have local intent. If you're needing to find something local, we need to make sure that we're showing up in Google in these ways. Businesses that optimized their Google business profile, or GBP, it's usually called, are more likely to appear in the local 3-pack rather than those who just set up the profile and let it go, or isn't complete, or isn't active. You haven't done that, you're missing out very likely on qualified leads. Finally, in 2022, again, 3 years ago, Google produced that profiles with actual photos, not stock photos, get 42% more requests for direction and 35% more click-throughs than those who don't have this. Google is a key pillar for ROI, because all of these things that I noted here, these are free. These are the free organic pieces of Google that are important to understand. So when you're auditing your Google presence, there are some questions that you need to ask yourself from a CEO perspective that results in ROI. Number 1, is your GBP, your Google business profile, filled out completely? Are you posting regularly, real photos, real posts, real Q&A to show activity on your Google business profile? And this doesn't have to be hard. You're already taking pictures. Just utilize some of them. Are you responding to your reviews? Reviews should be added to consistently on your Google business profile. Now, obviously, you only have so much control over, which how often consumers are going to go on there and post a review, but I think it's important to note that these are definitely important pieces. And then, is your business information consistent everywhere online? There are about 70 verified US-based business directories. And what you want to do is make sure that your name, address, your phone number is consistent across all different directories. If it's not, you might regularly have some people who use maybe still Yellow Pages even, or Yelp, or different areas to get information about your business. And I think it's important to note that these are pulling from various places. Is your name, address, phone number consistent across all of those directories? Even small checks like that can directly affect whether you show up in search or you get buried. I see some great questions popping up here in the chat. I'm going to queue some of those up for our Q&A time, and some of them will actually get addressed here as we move a little bit forward. So the third core driver is paid methods. And this is where, Maddie, your question really comes into play. So paid methods are sometimes referred to as pay to play, right? These are the things that can either be your biggest driver for ROI or your biggest money pit. So in 2023, Google released that paid searches, so this would be pay per click, captured high intent buyers, and that 76% of small businesses report success by tracking clicks, not just conversions. So I think it's important to note all of these details as it relates to paid methods. And again, we're even going back to here that load time can reduce or build your conversions from the paid campaigns. Clicks don't just pay the jobs though, right? Or pay the bills. Jobs do. So we have to understand what happens with those clicks once they're actually happening if we're putting money into paid campaigns. Where tracking has to become so key. Now, before I dive into what are some of the things that we can audit on our paid methods, let me quickly do a high level. What are the different paid methods that we can look at? So the first, probably the most common and used to be the biggest driver in especially the home services industry, is pay per click, or I'm sorry, PPC. This is paid or sponsored searches within Google. So this is specifically looking at you might be bidding on a keyword. You might be paying to show up for your business name. Where this is key is that you are paying per click. So you're bidding on a keyword. Once it shows up in search, if someone clicks on that, then you pay for that click. That's what you're paying. Cost per click can be a little bit lower in this case, but once they click, they're usually clicking to call or clicking to land on your website. You don't have quite as much control over what happens to those leads. But you want to make sure, again, that's where we go back to the website. Everything funnels into that. So you want to make sure that that's optimized. The second piece of paid methods is pay per lead. Maddie, this is what Google Guarantee is. So pay per lead is quite literally what it sounds like. Rather than paying per click, you are paying per lead, meaning the lead comes through, you paid for that lead. Usually it's a higher cost than the pay per click would be. And if that lead is not legitimate or qualified, you can dispute that lead to get your money credited back. Now, I'm just going to put this out there. Every single source that pay per lead comes from has a different cost for those leads that you're bidding for. They also have very different regulations on if or what qualifies as a qualified lead and if you can dispute them or not. In fact, Google has made a ton of changes to this over the past, I would say, even month that has drastically affected the way Google Guarantee, now called Google Local Service Ads, can be utilized and utilized well. And so let's go into our paid methods and how to audit those and questions to ask. Maddie, hopefully that answered some of your questions, but that's definitely something I'd be, happy to chat with you about offline as well. So when we talk about your paid methods and auditing those, the first question that you want to ask is, what is the cost of my leads and the cost per job, so that we can truly understand what we're paying for the paid ads. Paid methods can be, like I said, a very big money pit if you don't understand what's actually happening with the leads that you're getting through those. And that's where it's important to understand, even more so than how many calls, how many forms, how many leads did you get, what actually happened with those leads. What was the conversion that was tracking? More than just how many people clicked through my ad to my website, how many potential jobs did that result in, and how many, what was the ROI on that? So we're looking at campaign optimization as well. So eliminating wasted spend to understand if there is something that's working, let's lean into that and optimize our ads for that. And then alignment. Are you targeting the right things and the right service areas, keywords in the campaigns that you are running that allow you to really understand where things are going? All right, core driver number 4, reputation. 90% of customers read reviews before choosing a service. This was 2 years ago. I think even more so now. It has become huge. Reputation, trust, as you heard me say earlier, is the new currency. Customers don't just want to find you, they want to find you with a good reputation, and they want to trust you. Studies show that even displaying your reviews can increase your conversions by 380%, which sounds like a lot, but think about how many times have you gone on Google to look for something, you find a business and you go, "Oh, I'll call them," but then you go, "They have no reviews." Well, I'm not going to be the first one to do that. I have. I'm sure others on this webinar have as well. On the flip side, like I said, a lack of recent or authentic reviews can cause prospects to hesitate, even if everything else looks great. So, reputation is a huge core driver from a CEO perspective. And it hits on the fact there are 3 things that I say Google cares about the most. Number 1, are you who you say you are? Number 2, do you do what you say you do? And number 3, do people actually like you? High reputation scores correlate with 15% faster sales growth. 15%, you guys, that's a big deal. So it's important that we are looking at our reputation and our reviews as core drivers. When you talk about auditing this feature or this core pillar as a CEO, here are some questions that you want to ask. Review velocity. Number 1, do you actually have new reviews coming in? If you don't, that's the place to start. We have to start there, get some feedback coming in. Of the reviews that are, do they mention what you did for them and roughly the location that you did it? They don't need to mention their address, but if they could say, "Hey, so and so company came and repaired a leak for me in, Wausau, Wisconsin," that's where we're located. That is important to have in reviews, and in Google's mind, not only helps with your SEO, but the review quality as well. Auditing your reputation. Additionally, are you replying to your reviews? Yes, even the bad ones. Are you making sure people know that you care and you want to engage with them? And then again, reputation goes back to auditing your name, address, phone number, your NAP across platforms, and understanding that that needs to be consistent so that people know to leave reviews across multiple platforms. All right, the final core driver piece is probably my favorite, and I will do my best not to get on a tangent or a soapbox here. But core driver number 5 for auditing your marketing is your branding. You guys, branding is so much more than just your visual logo. It is how consistent, how trustworthy you are. It is the foundation of what you want to be as a company. Beyond the services that you offer, it is who you want to be. This is so important for auditing your marketing when you look at yourself and your competitors, because at the end of the day, the idea of your competitor is that they offer the same things you do. They are a competitor for a reason. So, what makes you set and stand apart from them? It is your branding, it is the who, the what, and the why of your business. And consistency in your branding through all the different pillars that we talked about: your website, your messaging, your social media, your reviews, everything. This increases your revenue by 23%, according to Forbes a couple years ago. Strong brand recognition in knowing who and what you stand for improves your trust and your conversions. Branding influences future purchasing decisions even before a customer is ready to buy. This is why it's so important to always make sure that you are showing up. People are 3 times more likely to choose a known, trusted brand, one that they have consistently heard from, over an unknown competitor every day. And this is, I practice this in my own life. And so I think it's really important to note these things. When we talk about branding, there are some really important notes here that we can look into. So, first, yes, let's talk about the visual consistency of your branding. Are your colors, your logos, your messaging, your tone, who you want to be consistent across all of your platforms? Is the visibility of your branding more than just what you do? Do you show your team? Do you show some jobs that speak to your capabilities? Do you show how you're involved in your community? Do you show the culture behind who you like, what services you offer? Branding is local recognition. Do people recognize your name locally enough to go, "Oh yeah, I've seen that," or "Yeah, that comes to mind when I think about that." And then emotional connection, your branding in all of these details, the who, the what, and the why of your business. Does it build trust and credibility with your audience? All very high level questions, all not super easy to navigate. But I think it's important to note that these are very, very important questions to ask. So here's what this comes down to. When we're talking about auditing your marketing, this is where most businesses fail, because they look at those details, they answer the questions, and then they stop, because they stop tracking what's actually working. You guys, if you are not tracking what is working, you are guessing. And guessing is expensive, and it gets more and more expensive really, really fast. One of our big differentiators in our industry as a marketing company is that we always want to be incredibly transparent in the work that we are doing. So much so that we created a tool called Leads to Jobs that connects the efforts you're putting into your marketing and understands with your CRM what leads were brought to you from your digital marketing and exactly what it resulted in for your business. It tracks that lead for the life of the customer so that you know that lead that I paid $100 for turned into a $10,000 job. Now my ROI on that is $9,900. Just vanity numbers here. I'm just throwing out some easy math. But that is why these things are so key. If you are not tracking, you are guessing. You need to make data-driven decisions and review those things on at least a monthly basis to understand why we're investing in certain things and then adjusting from there. I'm actually going to skip ahead quick to a slide I was going to note at the end, but I think it's important to note that marketing really is not a set it and forget it mentality. Continuous optimization in marketing is how a CEO should look at what's happening. After you audit, you have to understand you're not done. Now we need to analyze it again, strategically adjust, maintain the consistency, and it keeps going. It is a cycle so that you're continually auditing, you're continually strategizing, and you're not just saying, great, I've done it. Now I'm done and I'm going to let it perform. That is not how marketing works. So, as we look a little bit further, I think it's important to note that when we talk about auditing our marketing, there are some red flags that you need to be aware of. First of all, when we talk about red flags in marketing and marketing partners, these are some that I think are incredibly important. Number one, if you do not know or cannot track the ROI of your jobs, that is a red flag. You need to know where things are coming from, what they are resulting in. If you are only looking at vanity metrics, traffic, just general things, here's impressions. We need to know more than that to understand why things might need to be re-strategized or where we need to have adjustment. If you're given tools, but you're not given any context to audit your marketing, that's a red flag. What should this tool be telling me, and how is this helpful for me to make a data-driven decision? And then unrealistic promises. Listen, everybody's been there. We, as marketing agencies, it's easy to want to overpromise something that we can't actually deliver to you. At the end of the day, all of these details, all of these pillars that we're looking at today can be audited and can be set up with best practices for Google. But at the end of the day, it is up to Google, not the marketing agency, how these actually perform. If someone promises you a specific result of marketing, you need to run in the other direction. That is a red flag that would cause you to, throw things up and, say we need to look at some details. But here are some really quick wins when you talk about auditing your marketing, some really quick details. And I think this might answer some of the questions that were up in the comments here as well. So first quick win, ask people when they're coming in, hey, where'd you hear about us? Again, if you're not tracking, you're guessing. Don't guess. Figure out what of your marketing is working. Quick wins weekly Google Business Profile updates. If you can upload one photo a week, that's awesome. And even beyond weekly, if that is not consistency enough for you or not feasible in consistency for you, just be consistent. There is no magic number for how often to regularly update your Google Business Profile. Just find a consistency that works for you and stick with it. Consistency is key here. Weekly GBP. Oh, I'm sorry. You said that one. Adding in call tracking. So make sure, again, that you are tracking what's actually working. And then quick wins, run some free site speed audits. Like I said, this is really easy information to grab to understand how the pillars of your marketing are actually functioning for you. Just a couple more areas that I want to hit on before I open it up to some questions, and we'll cover this really quickly. But when we talk about auditing your marketing beyond just those pillars, it's really important to note that we want to align our marketing to the customer's journey. The customer's journey from awareness to consideration to a decision-making piece here. And this is just kind of a high level of where each piece fits in: your awareness, your local footprint, your SEO, your socials. This is your brand being in front of people even when they don't need your services yet. Then they get to the point where they do need your services, and we need our marketing to be tailored to them at that period of time. In consideration, we want to look at the website, the reviews, the word of mouth, the retargeting. This is another type of paid ads that's really important. Engaging with people who are already warm and engaging with you. Consideration. And then making sure then the final piece of our marketing in the decision category, where we do offers, where we have direct contact, where we act on what marketing is coming in. This is the decision piece. I quickly want to highlight a case study for a customer that we worked with and I'll say joined forces with even earlier this year. So water removal services, they are based in Georgia. They came to us earlier this year, really struggling with their SEO presence and understanding how they can set up their digital marketing online to really bring them success. We audited their presence. We went back to those 5 pillars and strategized a plan from there with their owner and CEO and put that into place. Within 2 months, without any weather-related activities, that company reported back to us and through our tracking that $120,000 came from their website alone within 2 months of reworking. Sorry, I wrote that wrong, but reworking their strategy. Their ROI was tracked, their ROI was measurable, and it was reportable. And I think I'll just leave this up here for a second, but this is Chad. He is the owner at Water Removal Services. He gave me permission to use this today, but this is how important it is, whether you're working with us or with another partner, to understand the impact of your marketing, why to audit it, and then go from there. Because what happens when you don't? The reality is that when you aren't aligning your marketing with those audits and with the customer process, with the customer's journey, you have awareness without consideration. So you have wasted clicks, but they're not able to find your information. You have consideration without awareness. You're an invisible business and no one actually knows that you exist. So people are considering needing a service that you might provide, but they don't know how to find you. They are not aware of you. And then you have decisions without trust that's directed towards you. So offers and contact forms won't work if your reviews are missing or your branding is inconsistent. Prospects hesitate, and instead they will choose a competitor and give their trust there. And this is the danger of not understanding that you have to make marketing a continual adjustment. You have to continually go back to those 5 pillars, audit them, re-strategize, and go from there. Let me end with noting this. This is really the CEO mindset in looking at those pillars. If you can't measure it, you can't improve it. If it's not measurable, it is not manageable. This is so incredibly important. Whether it's websites, Google, whether it's paid avenues, reviews, branding, tracking is what transforms your marketing from a gamble into an investment and makes your marketing that much more powerful so that you can make data-driven decisions. Now, I want to just note a couple things on here. As part of everyone who attended today, you are going to be receiving in your email our free Smarter Marketing Checklist. This is looking at all these areas that we talked about today from a high level perspective with a checklist of how can you actually audit this? What things do you need to look at to make sure that you are tracking them correctly? And then I will just note as well, this is something that we want to provide to you, but we understand not everyone is in a position of having time, expertise, or even wanting to look into this information themselves. So on this list and in your email, you will see we're going to send you, there's a QR code here, but we are also going to send you a link if you are interested in having our team complete an audit for you. We are happy to do so. Just real plain and simple, what we do is we pull information on the structure of your website. We pull information not even white labeled to understand how much traffic, how many keywords are you ranking for, where are there areas of opportunity in these 5 pillars for you. We put it all into a non-white labeled report for you. I'll walk you through it in a meeting, and then it's yours to do whatever you want to do with this. It is not, there's no pressure. You own this information. I don't need to gatekeep it. So I just want to use it as a way to help you. So you will find right there at the bottom of this sheet, there is a QR code. You'll also get it in your email. So I'm going to go ahead and move us to a time of questions that we might have. And while I do that, one final announcement up on the screen. This webinar is really the first of one that we are going to be doing monthly with a new topic every single month. So roughly the third Wednesday of each month, over kind of like a lunch and learn hour, I will be hopping on doing some webinars just to offer some education in the questions that I hear the most often in my role for marketing. And so next month, we are going to be given a session, Marketing When the Phone is Not Ringing, how to stay top of mind and drive business in the off season. End of year can tend to be a little bit slower for people as we hit kind of that in-between seasonal time. So would invite you to register. You can scan this QR code here to register for next month's event. Again, we have another checklist or one pager that will be sent out to all attendees for that one as well. So I will keep this up here. And I am more than happy to answer some questions. Let me just scroll up here and see what we've got. And my team here, Kim and Hazel, you let me know if there's any in here that I can address as well. The first question, Sophia, I think I kind of hit on this, but I wanted to know how often is it to regularly update photos on your Google business profile? So I think here it's important to note that there really is no direct, like this is the best way to, or the best amount to do this. As often as is feasible for you is the best thing. Google prioritizes and loves consistency and updates and action. They just want to see that you are active. And so I think that's where this becomes very important. My team is noting that weekly, if possible, is really the best. But again, I think it kind of goes back to like even with social media, how often should you be posting on social media? Here's the best possible piece, but if that's not feasible, do what is consistent and feasible for you. Maddie, you had some questions again on Google Guarantee. Just to kind of stress that out a little bit. There's a lot that goes into Google Guarantee, now called Google Local Services. This is Google's pay per lead avenue, meaning you are paying for a lead that comes through. You are rating it for the quality of that lead. And it used to be at least that you could, once you rated that lead, if the lead wasn't legitimate, you were able to get that money credited for that lead back to your account. Google's changed a lot of things, has changed a lot as it relates to AI. and makes it very challenging now to dispute. So I think it's important to note, I see your note here to reach out and we can chat a little bit more about this offline, and I'll do that. Happy to do that. Let's see. How do you go about reporting analytics to a client when they aren't always trending upwards as an agency owner? Wow, this is such a great question. And it is hard because, like I said, as an agency, we don't always have control over the actual efforts and the results of them. We can know that what we are putting forward is a great strategy, but it doesn't necessarily always mean that it performs. There's a lot of other things at play, right? There's algorithm updates, there's AI updates, there's so many things that come into play with this. And I think it's important to note here that transparency just becomes the key. The more and more and more that I have worked with customers in this industry, the more I've heard them value transparency over performance even. Yeah, they want things to perform, but they also want to know what's the reality of how things are performing. And if it's not ideal, what are we going to do to fix that? They just want to know that they have someone in their corner. So I would be honest in that if they're not always trending upwards, sometimes those things are out of our control. Just absolutely love, Maddie. Thanks for your comment. Transparency is key. I actually just heard a quote from a webinar. I'll see if I can maybe share this webinar, but it talked about the fact that marketing performance and how things are trending isn't necessarily always contributed just to the agency. It is both the agency and the business because there are so many different things at play. Let's see. Kim, one of my teammates here who's in the comment section, is adding a great note for me to mention that one of the things that we face, in talking about performance is figuring out what the client's goals are. So understanding that sometimes the trending upwards might not be the client's goal. If they don't care about time on page, that might be trending down, but they might be converting in other ways. So understanding what are the goals that they want to see and how are we strategizing based on that. Do we offer a consultation class on how to use Facebook business for paid ads? That is a complicated subject, but I love the question. Much like Google, Meta ads are changing very often, and every agency probably has a little bit of a different strategy. Again, I would go back to here, understanding your goals in those strategies are going to be very key. You really want to make sure that you have someone that can be an expert in that, performing them for you, so that we know, that the strategies are the right thing that are in place. And then the performance isn't a question of if it was set up correctly, but rather, is it meeting our audience in the right place? Well, guys, I just want to thank you again so much for joining me today. Have just a couple minutes left. So I'm going to leave it open. If there's any other questions, feel free to note those in here. I would invite you to sign up for next month's session. This, full transparency, this was actually a session I gave live earlier this month at an expo in Vegas and had such a tremendous response. I wanted to make sure we put it out there for those who were not at that. So has very practical tips, very practical advice on what that can look like. My team did put, if you're interested in scheduling a marketing consultation, in the comments here, my team went ahead and put the link for a marketing consultation, will jump on directly with me. We'll pull those reports and can schedule some time just to chat through areas of opportunity with no pressure for you. So I popped that on the stage. Otherwise, I want to thank you guys so much for joining today. We hope that you will join us next month. And I am just honored again, always here as a resource, honored to that you gave up your time, and look forward to seeing you guys hopefully again soon. Thanks for joining today.